Hey there, I'm Sarah. 3 years ago, I couldn't even open a jar of pickles. My hands were so swollen and painful that buttoning my shirt took nearly 5 minutes. Stairs. Forget about it. My knees felt like they had shards of glass in them with every step. At 42, I was using a cane on bad days, which were becoming most days. The doctors told me my rheumatoid arthritis was progressing normally, and that I should manage my expectations about what my life would look like going forward. Pain medications, possible joint replacements, and increasingly limited mobility were my future. But that's not how my story ended. Not even close. I still remember the moment everything changed. It was my daughter's 8th birthday party. She wanted me to join the kids, jumping on the trampoline they'd rented. I had to say no. The look of disappointment in her eyes. That broke something in me. I went to the bathroom and cried. That night, after everyone left, I sat at my computer and typed, "Is it possible to reverse arthritis?" I wasn't expecting much. Just the same medical websites telling me to take my meds and accept my fate. But what I discovered sent me down a rabbit hole that would completely transform my life. Here's the thing about chronic inflammation and joint pain that most conventional approaches miss. Your body is constantly communicating with you. And sometimes, the foods we eat every day are silently driving that inflammation through the roof. I didn't want to believe it at first. I mean, how could my morning toast or afternoon yogurt be contributing to my joint pain? But I was desperate enough to try anything. Let me take a step back and explain what I learned about inflammation and arthritis. Our bodies use inflammation as a natural healing response. It's supposed to be temporary, show up, help repair damage, then leave. But with arthritis, that inflammation sticks around like an unwelcome houseguest who keeps raiding your fridge. What many people don't realize is that certain foods can either fuel or fight this chronic inflammation. For years, I'd been unknowingly pouring gasoline on the fire raging in my joints. The science behind this is fascinating. When we consume certain foods, they can trigger immune responses that increase inflammatory markers in our bloodstream. These markers, things like C-reactive protein, interleukins, and tumor necrosis factor, sound complicated, but they're essentially messengers that tell your body to ramp up. Inflammation. My doctor had never once mentioned that what I ate might be connected to my joint pain. Not once. Instead, it was all about managing symptoms with medications that came with their own laundry list of side effects. I discovered that for many people with inflammatory forms of arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, which I have, or even osteoarthritis, what we eat can have a profound effect on our symptoms. It's not a magic cure for everyone, and I'm not claiming it is. But the connection between diet and inflammation is supported by a growing body of research. So, what did I actually do? I started with what's called an elimination diet. This isn't some fad weight loss plan. It's a methodical approach to identifying foods that might be triggering inflammation in your body. For 3 weeks, I eliminated the major inflammatory suspects: gluten, dairy, added sugars, processed foods, nightshade vegetables, alcohol. I'll be honest, those first few days were rough. I felt like I had nothing left to eat. I was irritable, had headaches, and questioned my sanity for trying this. My husband thought I was overreacting. My mother-in-law told me I just needed to accept getting older, but by day 5, something started to shift. The constant throbbing in my fingers began to subside. Not completely, but enough that I noticed. By the end of week 2, I could make a fist without wincing, something I hadn't done in over a year. Was it just coincidence? Placebo effect? I needed to know. After 3 weeks of eating only simple, whole foods, I began the reintroduction phase. This is where things got really interesting. I started by adding dairy back into my diet. Within 24 hours, the swelling in my knuckles returned. Not as bad as before, but undeniably there. I eliminated dairy again, and within 2 days, the swelling subsided. Next came gluten. Same story. Pain and stiffness increased noticeably within a day of eating wheat. But the biggest surprise: sugar. When I reintroduced added sugars, just a regular dessert after dinner, I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd aged 20 years overnight. My joints were on fire. Now, I want to pause here and emphasize something important. This was my experience. I'm not saying everyone with arthritis will have the exact same triggers. We're all biochemically unique. What sets off inflammation in my body might be perfectly fine for someone else. The point isn't that dairy or gluten or sugar are universally bad. The point is that identifying your specific triggers can be transformative. For me, the biggest culprits turned out to be 1. Added sugars and refined carbohydrates 2. Dairy products, especially cheese 3. Gluten 4. Processed foods with artificial additives nightshades, which many arthritis sufferers report problems with, didn't seem to affect me much. Again, we're all different. Once I identified my triggers, the next step was building a sustainable way of eating that would keep inflammation at bay without making me miserable or socially isolated. I focused on incorporating foods with natural anti-inflammatory properties. First, I dramatically increased my intake of omega-3 fatty acids. These are powerhouses for fighting inflammation. I started eating fatty fish like salmon and sardines twice a week. I added chia seeds and ground flax seeds to my breakfast. I even took a high-quality fish oil supplement. Next came colorful fruits and vegetables. The more vibrant, the better. Berries became my go-to snack. Their antioxidants help neutralize free radicals that can contribute to inflammation. Dark leafy greens like spinach and kale became staples in my meals. I discovered turmeric and ginger, 2 spices with potent anti-inflammatory compounds. I started adding fresh ginger to stir-fries and smoothies, and I began taking a curcumin supplement. Nuts and seeds provided healthy fats and important minerals. Walnuts, almonds, and pumpkin seeds became my favorite snacks. Beans and lentils gave me protein without the potential inflammatory effects I was experiencing from some animal products. And I didn't completely eliminate all my trigger foods. I just became strategic about them. I might have a small piece of cake at a birthday party, knowing I'd feel it the next day, but deciding it was worth it for the special occasion. It was about informed choices rather than rigid rules. The result: within 3 months, my pain levels had decreased by about 70%. My morning stiffness, which used to last 2 hours, was down to 20 minutes. I could open jars again. I could button my shirts without frustration. I could walk upstairs without counting each step through gritted teeth. As my pain decreased, I was able to incorporate more movement into my life. This created a positive cycle. Less pain led to more movement, which improved joint function, which further reduced pain. I started with gentle stretching and progressively added more. Swimming became my favorite exercise. The water supported my joints while allowing me to build strength. I found a yoga instructor who specialized in working with people with joint issues. I also discovered the importance of stress management in controlling inflammation. When I was stressed, my symptoms would flare, even if my diet was perfect. I began practicing mindfulness meditation for just 10 minutes each morning. I prioritized sleep hygiene to ensure I was getting quality rest. And perhaps most importantly, I learned to listen to my body's signals. I became attuned to the early warning signs of inflammation so I could adjust before a major flare-up occurred. 6 months into my journey, I returned to my rheumatologist. My inflammatory markers had dropped significantly. My physical exam showed improved range of motion and reduced swelling. He was surprised, skeptical but surprised. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," he said. "But don't stop your medications without consulting me first. That's another important point I need to make." This wasn't about rejecting conventional medicine. I worked with my doctor to slowly reduce some of my medications as my symptoms improved. Some I was able to eliminate entirely, others I still take, but at lower doses. One of the biggest challenges with changing your diet is navigating social situations. Family dinners, restaurants, holidays, these can be minefields when you're trying to avoid certain foods. I developed strategies. I'd eat a small anti-inflammatory meal before attending events where I knew food options would be limited. I became that person who brings their own dish to potlucks. I found restaurants with menus that could accommodate my needs. I learned to communicate my needs without making a big deal about it. My family was skeptical at first. My husband thought it was just another health fad. My kids complained about the changing menu at home. But as they witnessed my transformation, as they saw me return to activities I'd abandoned, as they heard less groaning when I got out of bed, they became supportive. Now, my husband is the one who reminds me when I'm reaching for a food that might cause a flare-up. "Is that worth tomorrow's pain?" he'll gently ask. Sometimes the answer is yes, and that's okay. This is about progress, not perfection. It's been 3 years since I started this journey. I want to share where I am now. I'm not cured. Rheumatoid arthritis is still part of my life. But it no longer defines my existence. On a scale of 1 to 10, my daily pain used to hover around 7 or 8. Now, it's typically a 2 or 3. I have some days where it's a 1, almost unnoticeable. I take fewer medications. I move more freely. I sleep better. My energy has rebounded. But the most meaningful change. Last summer, I jumped on that trampoline with my daughter. We bounced and laughed, and I didn't pay for it with days of agony afterward. That moment, that's why I'm sharing this story with you today. Before I wrap up, I want to address some common questions and misconceptions about using diet to address arthritis. Isn't this just the placebo effect? While the power of belief shouldn't be underestimated, the reduction in measurable inflammatory markers in my blood work suggests this goes beyond placebo. Also, when I accidentally consume trigger foods, my symptoms return regardless of whether I knew what I was eating. Will this work for everyone? No, and I would never claim that. Our bodies are complex and unique. What worked dramatically for me might help someone else moderately, minimally, or not at all. But given the minimal risk involved in trying dietary changes, I believe it's worth exploring. Is this just about weight loss? No. While I did lose some weight, that wasn't the goal or the primary mechanism. Thin people with arthritis can still have food-driven inflammation. This is about specific inflammatory responses to certain foods, not calories or weight. Do I have to eliminate these foods forever? Not necessarily. Some people find that after a period of elimination and healing, they can reintroduce certain foods in moderation without triggering symptoms. Others discover that certain triggers always cause problems. It's a personal journey. Is this the same as a vegan or paleo diet? While there's overlap with various named diets, this approach is more personalized. Some people with arthritis do well with certain animal products and poorly with certain plant foods, while others experience the opposite. The anti-inflammatory approach is about finding your specific triggers and beneficial foods. If you're struggling with arthritis pain right now, I want you to know that there's hope. I'm not promising a miracle. I'm not claiming diet is the answer for everyone. But what if it could help you, even a little? What if it could reduce your pain by 20%? Or 50%? How would that change your daily life? The journey I've shared isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about reclaiming pieces of your life that pain has stolen from you. If you're interested in exploring this approach, here are my suggestions. First, talk to your doctor. Make sure they're aware of what you're planning and can monitor your progress. Second, keep a detailed food and symptom journal for a couple of weeks to establish your baseline. Third, consider working with a registered dietitian who specializes in inflammatory conditions. They can help guide you through an elimination diet safely and effectively. Fourth, be patient and persistent. This isn't a quick fix. It took weeks before I noticed significant changes and months before the full benefits emerged. And finally, remember that diet is just one piece of the puzzle. Movement, stress management, sleep quality, these all play important roles in managing inflammation. I share my story not because I think I've discovered some revolutionary cure, but because I wish someone had shared this information with me years earlier. How much suffering might I have avoided? How many moments might I have reclaimed? If you found this information helpful, please consider subscribing to this channel for more content on natural approaches to joint health and inflammation management. I'll be sharing specific recipes, meal plans, and strategies that have helped me and others on similar journeys. Thank you for listening to my story. Here's to less pain and more living for all of us dealing with arthritis. Remember, your body is constantly trying to heal itself. Sometimes it just needs the right environment to do so.